dive into this word submissive because the world has tainted this word. The world has become very opposed to the word submissive. In my study time, y'all, I have really been just tapping into the presence of the Lord and having intimacy with him. And there are a lot of people who join this channel who have subscribed because they want to be fed. And I'm here to do just that. And so we're going to dive into this word submissive because the world has tainted this word. The world has become very opposed to the word submissive. But those who believe in God, we read the word and we study the word and we also follow the instructions of the word. And so we're going to tap into that word submissive and we're really going to dive into it. I know there are a lot of women who are desiring marriage and a lot of women who are actually engaged and a lot of women who just got married. And you know, that kingdom marriage word has been so active in the last couple of years, but it's really important that we understand what marriage is. And so look forward to those videos. But right now we're just going to tap into the word submissive and God's intention for that word. And we're going to be reading out of 1 Peter chapter 1. And I have my notes here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. And so I pray that this would go forth to who it's intended for, and that these words that I speak would resonate with you. And always go back to the Lord and meditate on this teaching, meditate on this word, so that way you can receive revelation in your season, okay? Because not everybody's in the same season. The body of Christ is in a season, but we all have individual paths or places in that path in our journey that we are at. So this is a word for anyone. If you're married, you're engaged, you're single, you don't desire marriage, this is a word for all of us. Okay, so first I'm going to read out of the New King James Version Bible, and I'm in 1 Peter chapter 3. And it reads, "Wives, likewise, be submissive to your own husbands." Let's just stop there. We're not even going any further. We're going to just stop there so you can get a better understanding. Okay, so the writer is saying, wives, likewise, be submissive to your own husbands. So when we think of wives, we can think of, standing at an altar with a man and, becoming a wife. Now, we have heard in the past, right, when a man findeth a wife, he findeth a good thing. And that word findeth means continuous, right? Not just, I see someone, I want to make her my wife, and boom, I'm gonna get favor. But findeth, if you look at it, that word means continuous. And so a man is to always look to understand his wife and continuously seek after her. That's number one. Number two is, before we even become married, right? We are a woman who is a wife to Christ. We are bride to Christ, and that's key. Be submissive to your own husbands. So we belong to Christ. If you are a born again believer, you have accepted Christ with your heart and you've said it with your mouth, you confess that he is Lord, then that's it, right? You are a bride to Christ. So many people are desiring marriage, and that's okay. If God had placed that desire in your heart, then roll with it, rock with it, do everything you can to hold on to that promise. However, the Lord will give us foresight for something to come, whether you've had a dream or you've been given a word, but we have to be able to steward that word. We have to be able to be obedient to that word. And sometimes when the Lord gives us a word, it is to believe. It is to be able to say, you know what, God, I trust you. You are not a man that you should lie. A bride. What that initially starts out with is our submission to Christ. And God is calling his daughters and his sons to be submissive to him. Because if we cannot be submissive to the one and true living God, then how are we going to be consistent and submissive and obedient to the person that we marry? It's going to be a struggle, right? If you have a hard time being consistent in your prayer time, you have a hard time being consistent in your studying and fasting and worship, then what is that going to look like once you get married? What is that submission going to look like? Is it going to be sometimey? Is it going to be inconsistent? Is it going to be spotty? And so right now, God is calling his children to be submissive to me. You are my bride. And so I desire for you to submit. And when we look at the word submit, the Greek word is HAPOTASSO. Okay, I don't speak Greek. So when I'm looking at the definition, the word, I'm like, okay, HAPOTASSO. We just gonna say, I'll put it on the screen. It means submissive. It means obedient, submit oneself, or govern ourselves to a law. The way the world has described submissive is like, oh, we're supposed to be like hit over the head and we're supposed to be like, bowing down. We do that to the Lord in prayer and worship. But when we look at it holistically, we follow and we are obedient to the laws of the road. We wear our seatbelts. We don't run red lights, right? We are obedient to a law and we are obedient to a governed authority. And so if you have a hard time, if any of us has a hard time being obedient to just the basics, the law, then you are most likely, and I'm gonna be real with you, going to struggle when it comes to marriage. Because if you struggle on and off with the Lord, which we all do, right? We all stumble, we all fall short of the glory of God. But when we have a heart posture that's not in a place of running after the Lord and chasing after him and wanting and desiring to be obedient, then we're going to struggle and you're going to have a hard time. And so the Lord is calling us to be submissive to him. What does that look like? That looks like reorganizing and prioritizing our lives. That looks like setting prayer times with the Lord. If you've fallen off, it's okay. Get back up and get to it. And especially if you are already married and you feel like you've just been pouring so much into your spouse and you feel like you're exhausted, go back to the beginning, right? Go back to the garden, go back to kingdom. And what that looks like is walking with the Lord in the cool of the day. That might look like setting a time around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night and going for a walk and just sitting with the Lord and talking with the Lord and regaining your strength as it pertains to being a spiritual being and a child of God. I guarantee you it's going to change the atmosphere and the environment in your home. Now, for those of you who are waiting for marriage, yes, it's a beautiful thing, right? Marriage is a beautiful thing. My parents have been married, and some of you already know, for over 40 years. And it wasn't perfect, but it's beautiful. God has ordained individuals to be together, and that alone is just hands down a beautiful thing. When it comes to relationship and intimacy, what does that look like with the Father? Right? What does it look like for you to be a bride that is submitted to Christ before you even get married? We have to be able to look at our spiritual toolbox. We have to be able to sit back and say, okay, what is it that I can do to be consistent in my faith walk? Do I need to join a group? We should learn how to be alone with God and not always be a part of a group or a congregation. And all of those things are great, right? You can serve in a congregation, serve in a church, serve in a community, but we all need that alone time with the Lord. And so even if it's just 5 minutes a day, if you haven't been doing it, set your alarms for 5-10 minutes a day. And I guarantee you, you will increase and he will have that drawing near to you and that hunger and thirst for you. So that way you can become an obedient and consistent individual in your actual earthly marriage. It's a spiritual union, but we're still human, right? And so we're going to be dealing with challenges and issues and setbacks throughout the marriage. However, it is to glorify God. And so I pray this word blesses you. We're not going to go all the way into it until next video, but I did want to share that with you because the Lord is calling us to be a wife and submitted to him before we even go into a marriage. I want to say this. There have been a lot of people who have gotten married who did not take those steps first. That's their situation. This video is being brought to you because God is giving us an opportunity to prepare. If you're not married yet, then you have all the opportunity, ample opportunity to prepare because this word is being given to you in the season for such a time as this, right? To be on fire for God and to be raised up to be who he has called us to be. So I pray that you would take heed to this word. I thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when new videos are uploaded. Comments, I want to interact with all of you. And also share this video if you know anyone who would be blessed by it. Until next time, love y'all. Bye.